Another David Andrea therapy session, we'll call
I
it.
know, with Olivia this time.
With Olivia. Olivia is the topic bringing us together for this music therapy session today. Olivia Rodrigo's sophomore album, Guts, is finally here. It feels like it's been forever since we've had music from Olivia. She usually keeps it under wraps, like she's been quiet since, the past 2-3-ish years since
I
Sour
was
came
nervous,
out.
David. I
We
was
got
nervous.
nervous.
Yeah, that sophomore album, sophomore slump.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's the big question here is, does she deliver? The sophomore slump it's a thing. Like, a lot of artists have their careers really hurt by a sophomore slump. And I mean, we'll get into it, but do we think this album overcomes that? What do you think?
I think she delivered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Well, I mean, on first listen, for me at least, it felt more mature and the sound just felt more diverse than Sour. I was someone that when I first listened to Sour, I thought it was kind of one note. I thought a lot of the songs were kind of whiny, the songwriting was very similar concept over and over again. But with Guts, it immediately kind of grabbed my attention, literally, because All American Bitch is or All American Girl, whatever you call it, is just, it really does grab you in the same way that Brutal does, but it's more, I don't know. I feel like it's just more of a good lead single, not lead single, but first single to open up the album. It just really, really grabs you because it kind of starts off a little bit slow and then it builds, and it's very reminiscent of early 2000s emo punk, that kind of vein.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the first thing I said was, "Is this Avril Lavigne singing this?"
Yes, I had the exact thought. She's admitted she's very influenced by Avril.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I love Avril. I'm an Avril stan till the day I die. And it's just crazy. I looked up afterwards her influences, and like you said, she does cite Avril as an influence. And a lot of people that she grew up listening to kind of fall into that vein. She likes,
Alanis
yeah,
and
Alanis, she's referenced Billy Joel and Carole King and those types of artists too. And it really goes to show when an artist that young is referencing those artists from that decade or that time period, it really comes through in her maturity and her voice and in her songwriting.
I agree. I also think All American Bitch does a good job of kind of the theme of the album, at least how I view it, is kind of the push and pull of being a kid versus being an adult, and it's kind of living in that in between. I kind of feel like she's da da, and then she's da, 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 da. I
Right.
feel like that is kind of the whole theme of the album, and that one first song on the album really encompasses all that.
It's very angsty. It's very bratty, I would say. And
Bratty. I love that adjective.
And
She's
I
a
mean,
brat.
you hit the nail on the head. She even has said this album is a lot about navigating life as a young woman, especially because she's only what, 21, 20?
She's 20.
Which is,
sorry, girl, it gets better.
We're here to tell you it gets better. But that leads me to another point is she's not even 21, and on Bad Idea, which is the song that comes right afterwards, she talks about being out and fucked up and drinking and shit. And I'm like, girl, have you even done any of this stuff you're talking about? I was
over in Europe.
Right.
Well, her man flies her to France. Yeah.
So
that's a lyric. So she's over there. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got it, mate. What do you think of that song? Because honestly, so Vampire was obviously the first song that she released off the album, and I didn't love it, but it's kind of growing on me a little bit. But when Bad Idea came out, I was like, this is a bop. This is a good song.
Yeah, Vampire, when I first heard it, I liked it, but I definitely thought it was a strange choice of a single. I was kind of a ballad? What? And then I was like, you know what, Andrea, just trust the process. She's an artist, her marketing people know what they're doing. And I think it fits well with Bad Idea, because Bad Idea is kind of the bop everyone loves, it's kind of the Good For You.
Yeah.
So I think releasing both those are really good. I think Bad Idea is very strong though. Something that didn't really sell me was the Vampire music video. I just didn't get it. I feel like I need to
Yeah,
rewatch it. It didn't like do anything for me. But the Bad Idea music video, oh, that
I
was
was
a
just
good
gonna
one.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally said that video was very like cheeky. It was very funny,
Mm,
like very creative. She also does, I mean, on the topic of her music videos too, like she does a good job of creating like a theme, like similar
yes.
colors, similar aesthetics, costumes, like that type of whole
Hmm.
thing. And I mean, I don't know if you know this, like, is purple anything significant? Like why she chooses the color purple, or is it just like her favorite?
I've never heard her say anything about that. She
Yeah.
must like the color. I would hope.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that she stuck with the purple for the second album.
Mm-hmm. Well, she even
I thought that
had
was clever.
she had the idea for Guts for a while. She said like she
Mm,
had the
hmm.
album name like when Sour was finished. She like wanted it to be
Yeah.
4 letters. She likes the term guts because it talks about it could be like a very universal term, like hating your
Hmm.
guts, trusting your gut, letting all those things kind of coincide with,
Yeah.
one space essentially.
I hope she sticks with the four-letter words throughout her whole career.
You think
I
so?
think that would be so cool for an artist to do.
It does show like it's similar like in the vein as Adele, like how all of her albums
Hmm.
are like a number of the age she I think either wrote it or released the album. It's one of those
Hmm.
two. But yeah, I could see that being a very cool like marker for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, Olivia. Do it. Do it. Do it.
She probably will. She strikes me as the type that likes to keep things consistent and build a certain image. And like we said, like
Hmm.
she's only 20 and she's already like so solidified in the pop culture
Hmm.
industry. Like she's gonna have this brand. She's gonna have to maintain it, I feel.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Like Vampire 2, like it kind of reminded me a little bit of Driver's License in a way. Like very similar
Hmm.
lead single, like we said, a ballad. But the different thing about Vampire is that it really builds and
Hmm.
it keeps building, honestly. Like
And
it
I
doesn't
think
really have an
that's
endpoint.
right. It just kind of explodes at the end there. I also think Dan, her producer, and her did such a good job of like it sounds familiar to Sour,
Mm-hmm.
but it also sounds very new and like you said earlier, very mature.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bump up. Not like
Yeah.
she's trying to be more mature than she actually is. It seems very like age appropriate to me and fun, and the production I feel like reflects that.
Yeah. You reminded me of a point too I wanted to bring up is there's a lot of comparisons on this album sonically. A lot of people are comparing, we mentioned Avril before.
Hmm.
A lot of people are comparing like All American Bitch to sounding like Start All Over by Miley Cyrus. And when I listen to this album, like there are bits I hear of like Taylor Swift and like
Hmm.
Marina or Marina and the Diamonds. Like I said,
I hear a
Teenage
lot of
Dream.
Paramore.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
like Paramore kind of comes through for me on like Love is Embarrassing a little bit.
Hmm.
It's like very like that bouncy little bridge at the end. I had to re-listen to it to remember what it was, but I was like, this sounds like Haley Williams. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think it's also important to mention as we're talking about, like, there's comparisons to her own sound. Like,
Hmm.
she's kind of pulling from anywhere and everywhere, I think, like what she's done and what others are doing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting to compare it to her other work because it was just so successful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like how does this compare? Does it
Mm-hmm.
top it? Does it not?
Yeah. I do feel like I said earlier, it does feel like a progression, and she's actually described it
Hmm.
as that as well. Like it feels more diverse. It feels like the energy too, and like it really ebbs and flows. And I'm like looking at the track list, like we said, we come out swinging with All American Bitch and like Bad Idea, and Vampire kind of starts off slow but builds again. And then you get, I really want to talk about this song, Lacey,
The
because Lacey's like,
outlier.
I was like, this is interesting. And this is
Yeah.
something I thought this sounded like a Gracie Abrams song, honestly.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
What it in my YouTube video, Andrew said it reminds him of Conan Gray. I heard that
Oh,
because
I could
Dan, her
see that.
producer, also works with Conan Gray.
Well,
Like the airiness.
I always say they're like the male and female equivalent of each other. Like
Mm.
their music is so copacetic. And
Hmm.
like I said, Lacey, like in particular, and this is another thing too that I think that Guts has that Sour didn't. her singing techniques are different. Like she kind of sings a little bit more with like a clenched mouth or
Mhm.
clenched jaw, or like there are certain parts that are very like operatic, like, and that's why Lacey stood out to me because I was kind of like, this is very, very different for Olivia.
Yeah, it's so low, like in her vocal range. It's so interesting.
And even like the words are so interesting. Like she talks about like low key being jealous of someone or envious of
Mhm.
someone, but also having a crush on them. And I was like,
Mhm.
is this a queer anthem that we're getting as well? Like,
When I listened to it, I didn't view it as that, but I saw like people on Twitter talking about that before it was released, and I was like,
mhm.
huh, huh. But who knows? It's all up for interpretation, I guess. It's art, right?
Yeah, art is always up for interpretation.
Always.
I'm trying.
But
What
yeah, it definitely
other?
is a strange one on the album. I mean,
Yeah,
not strange. It's great, but like it doesn't sound like the rest of the album.
yeah. Were there any other songs that you felt the same way? I'm trying to think of
Let me
another
look at the
one.
list.
I feel like, you know, I didn't like Ballad of a Homeschool Girl like too much, and it's
You
the next
didn't
one. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like,
give it another listen,
I might
maybe
have
10
to.
times more.
I'm guessing that's one of your favorites.
Yeah, that's definitely my top three.
What are your top three? List them off.
Well, Get Him Back is definitely my favorite.
Mm.
I love Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl. And I love The Grudge, but The Grudge makes me cry. So like I don't always listen to it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that one is deep. Like I wrote
Yeah,
driver's
yeah,
license combined with vampire. And like
yeah.
if you know like
If they had a
how deep,
child.
yeah, like that's, and like the one line too that really stands out in The Grudge to me is, and we both drew blood, but
Mm.
man, those cuts were never equal.
Oh
Like,
my God. And the line where it's like, I want to be brave, but I don't want to, I don't feel strong. Or
mm,
I want to be, what is the line?
it was something like that. Yeah, you're really, really
Yeah.
close.
Hmm. But it's, yeah, I think it's like very well done
Mm-hmm.
lyrically. I think The Grudge is one of her stronger ones. It takes strength to forgive, but I don't want to be strong.
Yes, that's what it is.
She really had to hit us with that, huh?
She really
Ouch,
did.
ouch, ouch, ouch.
She really did. Well, did you know this bit that apparently she like abstained herself from songwriting for 6 months after touring for Sour because
Wow.
she wanted, it was either after touring or while she was touring, one or the other. It just to like completely live life so that she could write again. So she
Yeah.
literally quit cold turkey from writing for like 6 months just so she could experience things to have enough content to write about again.
Hmm.
And I mean, it all goes back to that point too of being a 19-year-old 20-year-old girl, like navigating life and growing up and going through
Hmm.
things, especially when you're in the limelight. Like she was
Yeah.
catapulted into stardom, and actually the song Making the Bed is really reflective of that. So I actually really like that song
Hmm.
because
That's
that one's
probably my
very,
top five. Yeah.
really, yeah, because
Hmm.
it's like she talks about the pressures of dealing with fame, but also like you're the one that sets yourself up for that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, and it's just so like double standard.
Hmm. Like you're the one to blame. But are
Mm-hmm.
you? No, you are, but you're not.
And it's like, yeah, you are, but like also you're not. Like people add fuels to the fire, but like you're the
Hmm.
one that's kind of starting it too.
Hmm. Yeah. Ooh. I also saw in some interview she was saying how she was 17 when she was writing Sour, and it's kind of like her whole life. She's had to think about what she would put on a record, but like
Mm-hmm.
with the sophomore album, she was like, okay, like I said like what I really wanted to say. So that's interesting. She took a break like that because yeah, you must as a songwriter, you must have to go live your life to
Mm-hmm.
experience things to write about.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that too, that she had said with Sour she felt like she said everything. But I mean,
Like, well, she'd never like put out an album, so I guess it makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it's like just that topic like we said of living life, because even when
Mm-hmm.
you think you've said everything or experienced
Mm-hmm.
everything, there's always more coming around the corner.
Yeah.
And this is why this is our therapy session,
Yeah,
people.
yeah, 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 yeah. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah, it really gets us going. Let's talk about Get Him Back because you said that one's your favorite.
It is just so silly. I also too viewed it. I remember when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, she wants to get him back. Like she wants him back in her life. And then the last, when she's like mumbling at the end, she's like, I got him good. I got him really good. Like that part is so funny to me because that's when it clicked for me where I was like, oh, she wants like revenge on this guy. Like, go off, Olivia. I support.
Exactly. Like you can't just get him back. You also have to get him back.
Get him back. Yeah.
It's
Do you
only
have people
fair.
you would want to get back, David?
Not that I can think of off the tongue, but like there's got to be
But
some people
yeah.
out there, just to make him
Yeah.
feel a little, just a
A
little bit more
little
bad.
yeah. Yeah.
It reminded me, did you watch That's So Raven growing up?
That's a silly question. Of course I did.
Yeah, how rude of me to not know this already. Do you remember like the boy group? I think what
Yes,
was it?
Boys in
Boys in
Motion.
Motion, and they had that one song that was like "Gotta Get You Back," and it was.
You're so right.
I immediately thought of that when I wrote this down. I was like, "Oh my god, it's like Boys to Motion."
Wow.
It's all
Wow.
coming together. The Disney connection, like
That's where she
everything.
got her inspiration for that song.
She must have. She must have. It's the only logical explanation.
Only. Imagine she comes out and be like,
Well,
the proof is in the pudding. We
she's
have
so
it on this
funny.
podcast.
Yeah, she's so funny too, because like she's so open about the album itself and like what people are taking away from it, especially the lyrics, because like she's correcting everybody on Bad Idea, where it's not in his, I have this in all caps, not in his sheets, it's in whose sheets.
Yes.
And she's like going off on not going off, I guess it's an aggressive term, but she's like, duetting people about the album and like reacting to what people say. And like one of the big things that I actually didn't know this until I watched your video was how Vampire has the rumor to be about a feud with Taylor Swift. And I'm like,
Oh,
there's no
yeah.
way.
Yeah. People just, yeah. There's like, I'm a big Swiftie, if the listeners don't know. And there's this huge like rumor that Vampire is about Taylor Swift because she's a fame monster and blah blah blah. I don't buy into that at all. I do think there might be some drama with Taylor and Olivia because what is it called? Interlope or something, when an artist uses part of another artist's like song in their song.
Oh, like interlopation or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
interpolation.
Interpolation. Yes, that's the word. We got there.
Good job. And Olivia did that, I think, with Paramore and with Taylor. And like Taylor was very supportive of Olivia. I don't know if she still is or isn't, but Swifties have noticed that like they don't say hi to each other at award shows, and there's like after the whole interpol whatever drama, they like haven't been as close. So that's why people, I don't know, my personal opinion, I think people just love talking about Taylor Swift, and it's like good clickbait, and like it's stupid. Let it go, people. But
Yeah,
people are also speculating now that maybe Lacey's about Taylor Swift or The Grudge is about Taylor Swift.
I did see that. Yeah.
The poor girl can't win.
Yeah. It's just, it seems like people are always looking for a reason to talk about her and take her down, like you're saying. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And
so
as a woman, I'm just like, let Taylor support Olivia and Olivia support Taylor. What is the commotion here?
right. But it's so interesting because I feel like, and in my personal life, I know a lot of people that like both. So it's like, I don't think you can really pit them
Here's the
against each
real
other.
kicker too, is like a lot of people are like, I don't like Sabrina Carpenter because I like Olivia. No. There's no room for that. We can like everyone, give everyone their space. Yeah, it must be so interesting for Olivia because she's just been so in the public eye with all her like feuds or whatever.
Yeah, if we can even call them that.
Yeah, and it must be so interesting to be so young going through all that. It must be challenging.
And I mean, it's safe to assume probably it has inspired part of Guts. Like, there's got to be concepts of that on this album. Like we mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
Making the Bed talks a lot about fame and dealing with that. The Grudge 2, like, probably has some elements of certain industry people, we could probably
Mm-hmm.
assume.
Yeah, yeah, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Like, there really is. I have so many notes on this album that I'm looking at, and I'm like, what
There's a
else haven't we
lot to
talked about?
dissect. Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about. I really like to, like, speaking of logical, like we were talking about earlier, or I mentioned that term earlier, that song is kind of, it feels like I think people usually describe it as like a couple song on an album when
Mm.
like it borrows from another song. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it borrowed some concepts from Vampire when I was looking at the lyrics earlier,
Mm.
like the how do you lied, you lied like 3 times, building up walls and castles, like
David, I didn't notice that. I see it
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Go honestly,
Read the
genius.com,
lyrics.
when they do
Oh,
the lyrics and they kind of have like little explanations on the
they
side, I
know
was
what's
like,
up.
damn, they they really do.
They're onto something here.
Well, I had to do that because Spotify didn't have lyrics for all the songs yet. So I'm like, all right, I gotta look up these lyrics somewhere. Like, I guess
Apple
Genius
Music
is
did. Apple
no.
Music did.
We're not about to start that feud. There's no room for that feud on my
That's for the next
podcast.
podcast.
It's a whole other show, people. Whole other show.
Oh my god. Um yeah, logical I thought is just such a cool spin on words.
Mm,
I really liked that.
yeah. Like the one line too I have written down is to show the analogy of how things don't make sense in love and life.
Mm-hmm.
2 + 2 = 5, and I'm the love of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that 6 month break she took, it really shows.
Ah,
She really
that's
just,
gotta
it
hurt.
sounds like she put some things in the vault and just was like pulling them out in the songwriting session. I think she
Mm-hmm.
worked, she predominantly wrote, I think all, or she did write all of the songs, and she works
Mm-hmm.
with her producer, I forget his first name,
Dan.
Dan, yeah. And
Oh,
it
and
sounded like,
then here's a little twist. I should
mhm.
have said this when we were talking about getting back, but do you know Alexander 23
Oh yeah, 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 she worked with him on this too.
on Get Him Back? Him and Dan did that with her. But Alexander 23 just did Renee Rapp's whole album.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. He liked my TikTok the other day. So I think we're best friends.
Subtle flex.
Oh, speaking of flex, I have a signed copy.
How did you get a signed copy? Was that Target?
No, I drove like an hour to a record store up in New Hampshire the other day. Uh like Olivia's team posted that they had some like copies, and yeah, here it is.
That's so
Her little
wild.
signature. Yeah, wow.
It
When I tell you I
must,
ran, it was the last copy they had left.
oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
must be so tiring to have to sign everything one at a time.
Yeah. My hand would hurt and I would complain about it for like 2 weeks.
Maybe she does. Maybe we don't know all
Yeah,
cooking.
she probably
Maybe
does.
she's probably keeping a lot
Flour.
of stuff from us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait, where were we? Logical?
Yeah, we were talking about logical. Think I had said what I wanted to say. I don't know if you had anything else on that.
I feel like how I listen to albums is like I listen through like fully a couple times, then
Mm-hmm.
I identify the ones I really want to like learn all the words to.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I get like sick of those, I like move on to the ones I haven't really gotten to yet.
Mm,
Logical is not on my first round of favorites.
I see.
So I feel like I don't have a lot to add about that.
Right. No, that's fair. I mean,
But
like, as you listen to an album more, you're always going to develop more
yeah, I
ideas and
think
whatnot.
I don't want to say it too soon, knock on wood, don't jinx it. I don't think this is going to be a skip album for me. Sour is not a skip. I do not skip one song. And I think this might be the same thing. I'm just like learning them, you know?
Right. It's
I'm
still
a
early.
lyric girl. I want to know all the words.
Right. It's
And
still
you,
early.
yes, you have to narrow it down a little bit. Um, but one that is climbing through the rankings, David, is Love is Embarrassing.
I was just gonna say that one I kind of like. Like, I re-listened to it. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned the bridge earlier, that was like very reminiscent of Paramore, like Avril.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this one I could see myself listening to a couple times.
Wasn't a standout at first, but now I'm like, I'm like intrigued.
What is it about that song that catches your ear?
I really like just the upbeatness of it.
Mm.
And like love is embarrassing. Like, is there anything more embarrassing? I don't think so.
And I can think of a couple things, but yeah, they're all in the same vein.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a song that's like relatable no matter what age you are.
Hmm. That's an interesting point that you reminded me of too, is because like I said, I watched your review,
Hmm.
and you and Andrew had said, we're a little bit older than Olivia, like a couple years,
Hmm.
but a lot of the topics she sings about don't necessarily, I feel like, relate to our age bracket. Like they do kind
Yeah.
of relate a little bit more to teenagers,
Hmm.
earlier 20s, like 21, 22 even. So like some of the concepts themselves, I don't think I have a personal connection to, but I respect the art itself and I respect those
Yes.
concepts because it is very well done. Like I think she really
That's a good way
did
to
a
word
great
it.
job like presenting these topics of like adulthood and womanhood and getting your heart
Hmm.
broken, but also getting revenge. Like I just think she did it in a very eloquent way that anybody could listen to and say, I get it.
Yes. And also like I think the one Andrew and I were talking about in our video was Pretty Isn't Pretty.
Mm,
I feel like when you're a teenager, like, yeah, you're like so caught up in the media. I mean, I feel like at any age, you're like caught up in the media and comparing yourself to others on Instagram. And, there's just so much of that. But I feel like I am kind of at a point in my life where like I'm not like so consumed by that.
yeah.
Another good example is like Jealousy, Jealousy. I
Hmm.
love that song. I listen to it all the time. I sing it in my car, but it's not the most like relatable song to me in my life right now. But you're right. I love the art and I respect it. And I think they're all bops.
Hmm. For sure. And I mean, like we said earlier, like I said too, like the energy just really comes and goes. Like there are songs that
Mm-hmm.
have that high energy, there are songs that don't have that high energy. So it really is when you listen to the album from front to back, there's a little bit of everything. So I think, like I said, everybody can kind
Yes.
of relate to something on this album.
And those are my favorite kind of albums that have those slower songs, more upbeat songs, songs that make you want to dance, songs that make you want to cry. Like, I want a full plate.
Yeah. Eat it up, eat it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Olivia gave us a whole ass meal, so we're gonna have to go through
Yeah.
again and we're gonna get
Yeah, we're still eating it up.
we're
We'll be
still
eating it
eating
up a
it.
while.
We're not stuffed yet, Olivia. We're gonna give it a
No,
couple
we're
more
not.
go arounds. But if you haven't listened to Sour yet, or sorry, if you haven't listened to Guts yet, you might as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Fill
yeah.
your guts. Fill your guts as we're making this
Yeah,
meal analogy
exactly.
here.
Wow. Okay. I see the theme here.
All right, we just crushed that, I'll say.
Ugh, we did,
But
as
like
always.
but like I said, if you haven't listened to Guts yet, you got to give it a listen. Olivia really delivers this whole album on a silver platter. So good. Andrea, thank you so much again. I always love having you on the podcast, aka our therapy
Anytime, literally.
sessions.
Oh, yes. I love it. Thanks for having me, David.